Have you ever stopped to think about how many times during the day you simply fall silent? Not for lack of anything to say, but because of something much deeper happening within you. Maybe it's that moment when someone asks you how you are and you respond, "Fine," even though you know better, or when you're in a lively conversation and suddenly something inside you decides it's time to be quiet. These moments are no coincidence. They're not just natural pauses in our communication. They carry meanings that go far beyond what we imagine. And today we'll discover together what's really happening in those moments of silence that mark our existence in ways as mysterious as they are revealing. Think about it. How many important decisions in your life have been made precisely in these moments of silence? How many times have you felt like something was trying to tell you something through this stillness that seemingly emerges from nowhere? It's fascinating how our minds work in ways we don't always consciously understand. Sometimes we're in the middle of a heated argument and suddenly an inner voice tells us to stop, to listen, to be silent. Other times, we're alone at home, and that silence that should be relaxing becomes almost disturbing, as if it were loaded with messages we can't fully decipher. The interesting thing is that each person has a unique relationship with silence. Some people feel completely uncomfortable with it, filling every pause with words, music, noises, anything that dispels that sense of aural emptiness. And there are those who seek silence as a refuge, a place where they can connect with something deeper within themselves. But what few realize is that both the escape from and the pursuit of silence reveal fundamental aspects of our personality and our inner world. It's as if each silence were a window that opens to parts of ourselves we rarely consciously visit. What if I told you that your silences aren't just the absence of sound or words, but are actually a sophisticated form of internal communication, that they carry precious information about your fears, your desires, your deepest needs, and even paths you should explore in your life? This may sound strange at first, but there's ancient wisdom behind this idea, an understanding developed by one of the greatest scholars of the human mind who ever lived. I'm talking about Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized our understanding of the workings of the human psyche and who dedicated much of his life to understanding these more subtle and profound aspects of our inner experience, including the hidden meaning of our moments of silence. Before we delve deeper into this fascinating journey through the silent corridors of our minds, I'd like to extend a special invitation to you who are here with me right now. If this content is touching something within you, if you feel like we're exploring territories that truly matter to your personal growth, how about following us more closely? When you subscribe to the channel, you're not just clicking a button, you're joining a community of people who believe that self-discovery is one of the most important adventures we can experience. And since we're talking about silences and what they reveal, I have a curiosity. In the comments below, tell me about a moment of silence that has shaped your life. It could have been an important decision that came in stillness, an insight that emerged out of nowhere, or even an uncomfortable silence that taught you something about yourself. Let's create together a mosaic of experiences that can illuminate each other's path. Jung understood that the human psyche is like an iceberg. The part we see and know consciously is only a small fraction of who we truly are. Most of our personality, our behavioral patterns, our emotional reactions, and even our life choices are influenced by this mysterious region he called the unconscious. And it is precisely in this deep region that our silences gain life and meaning. When you remain silent in a situation, when something inside you simply decides it's not time to speak, it's not necessarily a conscious and rational choice. It's much more likely your unconscious trying to protect you, guide you, or alert you to something important that your conscious mind hasn't yet fully grasped. Imagine your unconscious as a very wise friend who knows you better than you know yourself. This friend has access to Information that your conscious mind doesn't always process, subtle body language, energetic patterns, intuitions that arise from past experiences, connections your logical mind hasn't yet made. When you're about to say something that might not be appropriate for the moment, this inner friend whispers a "hold on a minute" that manifests as an impulse to remain silent. When you're in a situation where you need to listen more than speak, this same friend creates a natural pause in your communication. It's a wisdom that operates beyond the level of consciousness, but that manifests itself through these seemingly simple moments of stillness. Jung observed that there are different types of silence, each carrying its own messages and psychological functions. There's protective silence, which arises when our unconscious senses we're about to expose ourselves in a harmful or premature way. It's that moment when you're about to tell someone something very personal and suddenly feel that it's not the right time, that this person might not be the best person to receive this information, or that you're not yet ready to deal with the consequences of this revelation. Your conscious mind may not have analyzed all these factors, but your unconscious mind has already processed the situation and sent you the signal through silence. There's also receptive silence, which arises when we need to absorb information, energy, or insights available in the environment around us. It's as if our psyche knows there's something important to be grasped and creates an internal space of stillness for this reception to occur appropriately. It could be during a deep conversation with someone, when you realize you're learning something valuable not just through words, but through nuances, energies, and subtle information that can only be perceived when we create this space of inner silence. Or it could happen in nature, when you sit in a park and without planning, simply stop thinking and be there, present, allowing something greater than your everyday concerns to manifest through this receptive stillness. Creative silence is perhaps one of the most fascinating from a Jungian perspective. It's that magical moment when you stop forcing solutions and simply allow your unconscious to work freely, solving problems or generating ideas. Jung himself was a great advocate of this practice. Many of his most important discoveries about the human psyche emerged not during his intensive studies or clinical analyses, but rather during these moments of creative stillness, where he simply allowed his mind to wander without specific direction. It's as if, when we stop consciously controlling our mental processes, we open space for deeper layers of our intelligence to come into play and present us with perspectives and solutions that our logical mind could never reach alone. Consider the great artists, inventors, and thinkers throughout history. Most of them report that their greatest inspirations came precisely during moments of relaxation, silence, and contemplation without specific objectives. Einstein spoke of his moments of reverie, where he allowed his mind to explore possibilities without the pressure of finding immediate answers. Beethoven composed some of his most beautiful melodies during silent walks in nature. It's as if creative silence were a bridge between the world of infinite possibilities that exists in our unconscious and the concrete reality where we can manifest these possibilities through actions, creations, and transformative decisions. But Jung also warned us about defensive silence, the kind that arises not as wisdom, but as a mechanism of excessive protection. This type of silence appears when we develop avoidance patterns that prevent us from expressing our truth, our feelings, or our legitimate needs. It's the silence that arises from fear of rejection, judgment, conflict, or vulnerability. While it may have been necessary at some point in our lives, perhaps during childhood, when expressing certain things could have negative consequences, this pattern can become limiting in adulthood, preventing us from forming authentic connections and fully living our inner truth. The art lies in learning to distinguish between these different types of silence, the wise silence that arises from deep intuition versus the limiting silence that arises from fear. Jung suggested that we can develop this capacity for discernment through close observation of our internal patterns. When you notice yourself in silence, you can ask yourself some reflective questions. Is this silence protecting me from something truly harmful, or is it preventing me from growing? Am I silent because something deep within me knows it's not the right time to speak, or am I silent because I fear the consequences of my expression? Is this silence creating space for something new to emerge, or is it keeping something important repressed? The Jungian concept of individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are, in our most authentic essence, is intimately connected to our relationship with silence. During this process, we learn to honor both our moments of expression and our moments of stillness, recognizing that both are essential aspects of a full and integrated life. Sometimes, personal growth requires speaking our truth even when it's difficult. Other times, it requires us to be silent, to listen to more subtle voices, our intuition, our inner wisdom, or even the unexpressed needs of those around us. Jung believed that in silence we find direct access to what he called the self, the organizing center of the personality, the part of us that transcends the ego and connects with something greater. It is in this space of stillness that we can perceive recurring patterns in our lives, understand the deeper meaning of our challenges, and discover paths we may never have consciously considered. The self communicates with us not through words and concepts, but through symbols, sensations, intuitions, and insights that arise precisely in those moments when we stop trying to control and simply allow the deepest wisdom to manifest through our experience. It's interesting to note how our modern society has an almost phobic relationship with silence. We live in a world where constant noise has become the norm. Cell phone notifications, background music everywhere, incessant conversations, visual and audio stimuli vying for our attention. Every second, in this context, silence can seem almost threatening, as if it were a void that urgently needs to be filled. But Jung invites us to rethink this relationship, suggesting that perhaps it is precisely in this apparent emptiness that we find our greatest inner richness. It's as if, by constantly fleeing silence, we are also fleeing fundamental aspects of ourselves that can only manifest when we create this space of genuine stillness. The practice of cultivating a conscious relationship with silence can become a powerful tool for self-knowledge and personal growth. I'm not necessarily talking about formal meditation or structured techniques, although these have their value too. I'm referring to something simpler and more accessible, starting to notice and honor the natural moments of silence that already occur in your life. When you're drinking coffee in the morning, and for a few moments, simply stop thinking and be present. When you're driving and turn off the radio to spend a few minutes alone with your own thoughts. When you're walking and realize you can walk without talking on the phone, without listening to music, simply walking and observing the world around you and the sensations that arise within you. Jung discovered that our internal conflicts and decision-making difficulties often resolve themselves naturally when we stop forcing solutions and create regular spaces of contemplative silence. It's as if our conscious mind, with all its analytical and rational capabilities, is just one of the tools available to navigate life. When we allow other types of intelligence, intuition, bodily wisdom, insights arising from the deeper layers of the psyche, to also participate in the process, we often discover more creative paths, more aligned with our inner truth and more effective in resolving our challenges. One of Jung's most interesting discoveries was realizing that silence can be a form of communication not only with ourselves, but also with others. When we are truly present in silence with someone, not the uncomfortable silence of a lack of conversation, but the relaxed silence of genuine companionship, we create an energetic field where deeper connections can occur. It is in these moments that we sometimes understand things about the other person that go far beyond what they could communicate to us through words. And it is also when we allow the other person to know us on levels that transcend our social mask, our persona, and reach more authentic aspects of who we truly are. Silence can also be a bridge between our individual experience and something larger that connects us to all of existence. Jung observed that in moments of profound silence, many people report feelings of connection with nature, with other people, with spiritual dimensions of experience, or simply with the fascinating mystery of being alive and conscious in this immense and complex universe. It's as if when we stop identifying exclusively with our personal thoughts, concerns, and desires, we open space to experience broader aspects of reality that have always been available, but that we rarely perceive amid the constant noise of everyday life. So, the next time you find yourself in silence, whether by choice or because something within you has decided it's time to be still, try accepting that moment as a gift instead of trying to immediately fill it with words, thoughts, or distractions. Allow yourself to be curious about what this silence might be trying to communicate to you. Perhaps it's an invitation to rest, to reflect, to listen to something important happening around or within you. Perhaps it's your inner wisdom creating space for valuable insights to emerge. Or perhaps it's simply a reminder that you are much more than your words, thoughts, and actions. You are also this silent, conscious presence that observes, that feels, that simply is. If this message from the silent realms of your psyche has sparked your curiosity to continue this marathon of self-discovery, I would be delighted to have you here with us more often. Each video we create is an opportunity to delve together into these fascinating aspects of the human experience that are rarely explored in the depth they deserve. Your presence here enriches not only your own story, but also that of everyone else who is part of this community of consciousness explorers.